continuing the Art of Giving series, and we will be creating watercolor bookmarks. So for this project, you need some water, you need some paintbrushes, and I have it in small, medium, and large. You need some watercolors, you need watercolor paper, paper towel, painter or washi tape, some scissors, and you might also want some decorating supplies. And I just have a Sharpie and a marker. So we'll start off by prepping our watercolor paper, and this essentially will help us make it into bookmarks. So you'll take either washi tape or painter's tape, and you'll put the tape around the edges of the paper. It's best to use washi tape or painter's tape because it's weak compared to other tapes, so it should be easier to tear off without ripping the paper. So after we get the outline of the paper, we will divide it into 4 different sections. So I'm just gonna put tape around the edges of where I want my bookmark to be. And for each different section, I'm gonna do a different idea. And of course, you can create your own. So for this section, I have my water. For this section, I want to try the wet on wet technique. The wet on wet technique is a watercolor painting technique where wet paint is applied to wet paper. So for this, I'm taking some orange, and I'm applying it to my already wet paper. The water was a little yellow because I didn't clean my brush well enough from when I was painting earlier. For this one, I've decided that I want to make a mountain. So I'm going to put a little bit of red and orange in here. I need to wait for it to dry or else all of the colors will merge together. And I'm just gonna use my paper towel and wipe off some of that paint. For this next one, I also want to use a wet brush technique where you add some water. I'm going to add some shades of green throughout. The more water that's on the page, the more diluted the color will be, and diluted is when, for example, color pigment is weakened because of water. I'm going to add some more greens here. So if you have more pigment, it'll be stronger, as well as if you have more water, it will take longer to dry. Okay. For this one, I think I would like to make some general shapes, and I'll start off by making it with my water, and then I will add, and I'm going to use my medium brush this time, I'm going to add some shades within that, and water it'll spread, the color will spread throughout the piece, but only where the water was. And the more water, the more it will spread. You can see get sharp edges until the layer dries and you do a you paint on dry paper. So this layer is more like a background, especially if you're doing wet on wet. And for this one, I'm going to do something very simple, and instead of focusing on the watercolor part of it, I'm going to use both wet and dry. So I'm just going to wet certain areas and take a decent amount of pigment so I can just have a colorful area. And I think I would like to write a quote on it. Watercolor can be very daunting, but even if you are a beginner, you can make something really cool looking. Okay, and once that is dried, you can continue with the piece. And for the mountains, I want to go with a very pigmented color. So I'm using a lot of the watercolors and not much water. Actually gonna take all of the watercolor and kind of drag it down with the water. The nice thing about watercolor is you can pretty easily remove it with water. About touching any of the red because it is not dry. Watercolor can be a very long process because you have to be very patient with the drying. Drawing, you need to be very patient, and that's why sometimes it's good to work on multiple pieces at once, because without the patience it can easily get ruined. For this one, I'm just gonna draw some simple flowers. And you can, of course, add more water or paint and add more layers. I think for these I will only do 2, but the more layers, the more intricate it can be. the color and also drag it towards the middle a little bit with the water. And once the paint is dry, it can be a little more difficult to do that. Just adding a little bit more color can make it really pop. Watercolor painting in general is really interesting because it is a type of paint that can be dissolved in water, which gives this a very unique and transparent look when painted. And once everything is completely dry, you can continue to add layers with the wet on wet technique or a dry brush, which is a painting technique where you have a dry paintbrush and you have a little amount of paint on it, and that should give it a very crisp, dry look. And for watercolor, it's sharpness, but if it was acrylic paint, for example, on canvas, then it would give a very scratchy texture. Once everything is completely dry, you can take your markers and start to decorate. I think that the best part about this series is that you can give to others, which actually helps your own self-esteem and can help reduce stress and increase happiness. So for these bookmarks, I will be giving them all to a friend, and I hope that you do the same. Or a family member. Once you've finished decorating, peel off the tape very carefully and very slowly, just to make sure that that the paper doesn't rip or tear. Okay, and then once you're done, you have 4 beautiful bookmarks, and the last part is to just use your scissors and carefully cut in between the lines. And you can of course keep as much of a border as you want. And that's it. Thank you all for joining me, and hopefully see you in the next lesson.